Alright, guys, so I recently just finished watching the entirety of Jessica Jones, the new Marvel series that was put on Netflix rather recently. It seems like the Marvel and Disney, they're going to be releasing a lot of Netflix stuff, standing alongside the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Avengers, Thor, Captain America, Iron Man, all that stuff. So Daredevil was released earlier this year, and Daredevil was very good. And then now Jessica Jones came out, and Jessica Jones, this show was pretty interesting. I will have to say, it gets so dark, darker really than I ever thought it would. I mean, a lot of the themes this show is exploring is, rape and PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder, to a lot of the bad shit that's happening to some characters. It is really rather interesting watching these characters go through basically their encounters with this fucking prick of a villain. So the show stars Kristen Ritter as Jessica Jones. Now I've always liked Kristen Ritter. She's been in a lot of things. She was in Breaking Bad. She was I remember the best friend in that movie. She's out of your league or whatever with my girl Alice Eve. So Kristen Ritter, she's been around for a while. She's been in a lot of TV shows. I don't think she's been in that many movies, but I think this show will help raise her buzz, and there's a very high chance that we could see her in some of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies upcoming. But basically, Jessica Jones is a detective who has superhuman strength. And basically, the show is, her being a detective using her superhuman strength, beating dudes' asses. And there's a particular villain she's trying to take down throughout the show. This villain, of course, his name is Kilgrave, otherwise known as the Purple Man. The Purple Man is pretty much, like his, villain name. Like Magneto has a real name, Eric Leschner or something like that. But then, also he's got Magneto. So it's the same thing with Kilgrave and Purple Man. A number of other characters do make appearances, such as Luke Cage is actually in the show because they do eventually want to spin off and make a Luke Cage series. I actually think that is going to be coming out not too far from now. Luke Cage, he has a pretty big role. He's in quite a few of the episodes, which there are 13 of. I did love Luke as a character, but I do have some real gripes with some of the stuff they did with this character. I'll get into that in a little bit. They've also got this character, Patricia, Trish, Patsy, Walker, whatever you want to call it. In like the Marvel universe, she eventually becomes a hero called Hellcat. But as of now, she's pretty much just sort of like a popular, radio host on a channel. She's a big star at this point, so Jessica is able to use her to help her out. She's able to get, if she needs to, get into like the morgue at one point. Miss Walker here, Trish, she's able to get like the guy who is guarding the morgue, a reservation at the best restaurant in town, stuff like that. Then there also is this character, Will Simpson. Now, this is a character, I might as well talk a little about him here. He is just a normal NYPD police sergeant who gets controlled by Mr. Purple. Now, Mr. Purple, his power is that he is able to just say something, and no matter what, people will have to follow his command. So, like, he's walking down the street and someone bumps into him, and he tells the guy, like, okay, go walk into traffic. And the dude will just, no matter what, he'll go walk into traffic and, he'll likely die. And throughout the show, you see him do tons of stuff like that. Like, a kid is bothering him at one point, and he tells him, go stand and stare at that wall forever. And it eventually is revealed that what exactly is causing people to listen to Mr. Purple is that I guess he's emitting a sort of virus. Like he has kind of like a field of influence. And when people are in that field, they have to listen to what he says. And there is a time limit too near the start of the show where they say it's about 12 hours that the effect lasts. And if he doesn't tell them to do anything, after 12 hours, they're free from his control, at least until he would do it again. At some point, he tells Will Simpson, this NYPD sergeant, that he wants him to kill Jessica Jones, kill Trish Walker, because Trish at one point had, talked bad about Mr. Purple on her radio show. And Jessica eventually is able to save this guy. And it's weird. He goes from just a normal NYPD officer, basically, to portraying a character from the comics. His name is Nuke. I guess in the comics he has, a lot of stories with Wolverine and Captain America and stuff like that, because he's, basically an agent of the government. So, he's got dealings with like Weapon X and all that stuff. And he goes from being an ally after Jessica frees him from Mr. Purple's control to essentially a villain, because he is a part of this program in the show. It's not Weapon X or anything in the show, because remember, Fox owns the rights to X-Men, so all that stuff is not in the Marvel Universe. And what it is there's these pills, yeah, red pill, blue pill, just like the Matrix, which is funny because Trinity's in the show too. The red pill basically, gives them, it doesn't seem to be super strength. It's more just like super endurance and like a laser focus to do what he needs to do. And, he pretty much doesn't have emotions, doesn't have feelings. It's just nothing is going to stop him from accomplishing his goal. It's almost like Adderall, like max level Adderall, like super duper to the level. Like if you, gathered the 7 Dragon Balls and said, Shenron, give me the most powerful Adderall ever, what you would get is these red pills that this dude Nuke takes. And then there is also a set of blue pills that will, bring you down and calm you down, bring you to a normal level. There's a couple of other, minor characters who have some, some screen time. There's this character, Hope Schlottman. She very, very beautiful girl, played by Erin Moriarty. Kilgrave, Mr. Purple, makes her kill her parents. So a majority of the show is Jessica Jones is just trying to get proof of Kilgrave's power so that she can free Hope. It actually leads to one of my biggest complaints about the show, though, is that it's 13 episodes, but really, the plot that they outlined here could have been finished in 7. There are several opportunities where Jessica Jones could have finished things, because it's eventually revealed that Jessica Jones has over time gained like an immunity to Kilgrave's power. She's the only person who he can't control, and she does get several opportunities to be right next to him. She could have killed him so many times, but she doesn't. And it really felt like they were just kind of dragging the show on at a certain point. It's kind of like, this was really, really, really good at the start, but we got a little bit, we're just dragging this on. That's never, never good. There's also a character, Malcolm. He plays I believe it's he's a heroin addict, and at the beginning, he's like kind of like a little bit of comedy relief, just stumbling all over the place until it's revealed that he's an addict because of Kilgrave's tampering. And it was funny because something about the character made me think of my friend Dion. So like I was watching the show with my friend Manny and this like, oh, Dion, no, don't do that. And that was always real. There's also another character, Jerry Hogarth, who is actually a very, very powerful attorney that Jessica Jones does some work for, and Jerry Hogarth is able to help Jessica out in exchange a couple of times, including at the very end of the show, after Jessica finally does kill Mr. Purple. Jerry Hogarth is able to exonerate Jessica Jones. Now, this character is played by Carrie Ann Moss, who I did mention earlier, is Trinity in the Matrix series. So that's pretty interesting. Although, for me personally, I had a tough time. Like, I just see Trinity always looking at this girl. Like, her hairstyle has always been the same. Has she ever changed her hair ever? I've seen her in a couple things. She was in Disturbia, that Shia LaBeouf movie. Her hair was exactly the same. And it's like, man, I just can't help but see Trinity on screen every second. And in the comics, this character, Jerry Hogarth, she actually is a character that works closely with Iron Fist, which is interesting because they are also going to be doing a Iron Fist Netflix series, just like they're doing with Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Daredevil. So clearly, she might be a bridge between Iron Fist and the Jessica Jones. Now, for the first, 7 or so episodes, I mean, the show, it works really well, Jessica is trying to chase down Kilgrave, Mr. Purple. She's trying to figure out exactly what he's after. She meets Luke Cage. They fuck a lot. Yeah, see, that's the thing about this show, is there is a lot of fucking in this show, and they really explore the fact that when Mr. Purple, is having sex with these girls, he is essentially raping them, because he just says, suck my dick. And they're sucking his dick, but it's like they don't actually want to. So he's raping them. So, that's a big part of the show, is Jessica Jones is basically trying to stop this monster who he leaves a whirlwind behind him, because eventually, later on in the show, once they start reaching out to other people, they see just how many normal people's lives he's affected. There's one story of a guy who was driving with his son, and his son is real bratty and is always annoying him, and they're at a traffic light, and Kilgrave just gets in the car and says, leave your son here, you're gonna be my personal driver. And so this guy just, takes his son out of the car and abandons him, and he's just Kilgrave's personal driver for a couple weeks. And because of that, he abandoned his child, and the courts basically took custody of his child away from him. So, there's a lot of stories like that of people's lives having been ruined by this guy. And that's another reason I get so upset. It's like, okay, Jessica, you see that he's ruined hundreds of lives, all the people he's killed, and she's still just bullshitting with this guy. Like, no, we can't kill him. We've got to get him to confess. I got to get, secret camera footage of him. It's like, no, bitch. You just go chop his fucking head off. Like, enough of this shit. She keeps letting him get away, and he fucks up more people, and it's just a never-ending cycle until the final episode when she finally does take him out. And I was just starting to get so frustrated as she just continues to let this dude just get away with doing anything he wants. Eventually, Kilgrave does get control of Luke Cage, and that's probably the best fight of the show, is, the last 2 episodes when Luke and when Luke and Jessica are fighting. Luke is under Kilgrave's control. But this leads me to my biggest complaint about the show. In Daredevil, the action, the fighting was on par with a Tony Jaa movie or a Jet Li movie or something. It was choreographed so well. This fighting, the dude, whoever they have, Daredevil, he's a martial arts, he's fighting with martial arts. It's not what you would see in movies where it's Captain America. Captain America's a bad example because the fighting in Winter Soldier was excellent. Maybe one of the Batman movies where, the Dark Knight trilogy is so amazing, but one problem is that the camera is always so close to Batman and whoever he's fighting that you can't really tell what's going on. You're just seeing like his cape moving around and shit. But in Daredevil, like you could see every blow, you could feel the impact. Here in Jessica Jones, I don't know if maybe they just didn't have a lot of money for effects or whatever, but all these fight scenes seem very, very lazy. Like she has one move, which is where she punches someone and then they fly back. Several times, even though she has superpowers, she gets her ass beat down by normal people with like baseball bats and tasers and stuff. It's like, girl, you can jump like 500 feet in the air. You could lift a car and you're getting your ass beat by normal people several times. Like, girl, what the fuck are you doing? Like, Jessica is just a fucking idiot for a lot of this show. And I didn't like that. I felt like that wasn't true to her character. The character they set up, I feel like, wasn't as inept as the show portrayed her. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I felt like the show was disingenuous to who the Jessica Jones they introduced in the first couple episodes, as she's fucking up, letting Kilgrave get away over and over, getting her ass beat by normal people, fucking things up with Luke Cage, who she really, really likes. Like, it's just, at a certain point, I was getting very frustrated with how they were pushing Jessica's character along. I felt like they didn't do the best job with that. And then, don't get me started on Luke Cage when he fights. So Luke Cage, his power is that, like Jessica, he has a superhuman strength, but his skin is also effectively, like diamond. Like, his skin is unbreakable, and he's immune to a lot of damage. Like, he gets caught in an explosion, and it doesn't really hurt him that bad. He's just able to withstand, the heat of the fire, the intensity of the blast, the shrapnel. None of it really does anything to him. There's a scene where he finally does get hurt badly, and he's in the hospital, and, they're trying to, stick him with syringes and stuff and give him medicine and, different fluids to help out, but they can't pierce his skin with the, with the syringes. But despite all that, whenever you see my boy fighting, like Jessica's only got one move, that's just her straight punch. It's essentially a jab with superhuman strength behind it. My boy Luke Cage also has one move and one move only, and that's for him just to pick someone up and throw him across the room. You never see Luke do anything besides that. This guy is hitting me with a baseball bat. I think I'll just pick him up and throw him across the room. That's all you see. It's just very, very lazy. Really, the only time either Jessica Jones or Luke Cage do anything different in fights is when they're forced to fight each other. That's why I said, like, that is definitely the best fight of the show. Overall, I'd say the show was very, very good. Maybe, it fell short of great. I did think Daredevil was better. I mean, if I was rating this using the Netflix system that they give you, which is, 1 to 5 stars, I absolutely, without even thinking twice about it, would give it 5 stars, definitely. But they had such a good premise. The actors were so well picked for all of these characters. Maybe Luke Cage, they could have gotten someone with a little more charisma, but Mike Colter as Luke Cage, he was okay. Like, I don't have complaints about him, but I feel like they might have been able to do better. The performances were good, everything was solid. It's just there are a couple problems of laziness, bad effects, bad writing that kept the show from really, really ascending to just like an all-time level. But I will say, I would think going into this show, it was as good as I would have thought. I wouldn't have been able to think like, oh, Jessica Jones would be better than, the final product I did see, which is why, even though I've got, such high praise for it, I am still disappointed because the potential for this show was like, Super Saiyan 2 Gohan level, but they barely, I think, even hit Super Saiyan 1. It's just disappointing in that aspect, but still very good. If you guys, if anyone hasn't seen it, well, I did full spoilers, so I guess I hope you saw it. But if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's solid, and I'm definitely going to look forward to the next Netflix Marvel show they're gonna do. Daredevil was amazing, definitely better than Jessica Jones, and Jessica Jones was very good. So I will be very curious to see how good Luke Cage is.